This is a good sign, Allison, for our scholarship season to see so much interest showing up this evening and thinking about scholarships at Boyd's Mills.
That's great. I just changed the permissions in the chat. So if you're messaging and you want to make sure you're messaging to everyone, you want to take a look there and make sure everyone is selected. You also have the option just to send a note to hosts and panelists. Hosts and panelists are the faces that you can see on the screen now. There we go. Snowy Western New York. Really snowy here too. Well, as George said, this is a good evening and welcome to all of you who have gathered with us. We're so glad you're here. Folks will continue to join us. We had just under 500 people sign up for tonight's webinar, so the number will probably continue to grow in these first few moments. I do invite you to settle in as we begin. We're going to take an hour together. It's an hour where we're going to talk a lot about hope. We're going to talk a lot about stories. We're going to celebrate the gift of supporting storytellers as they create for kids. I think a lot, especially during scholarship season, about support and care. But right now, in the state of the world, I'm thinking a lot about caring for one another. And I know that caring is how we survive. It is a deeply human thing to do. And in times like these, when the world feels heavy and there's a lot of heartbreak and injustice, reminding ourselves of who we are and what we do really matters. We can move forward. In Holly, Pennsylvania, which is where I'm located right now, we received, well, if you ask some people, we received about 2 feet of snow. And if you ask others, we received 2.5 feet of snow. Probably depends on where the wind blows. But in the midst of it, what I saw was neighbors shoveling out neighbors. On Monday, I spent time with people I loved, clearing ice from tires and carving a path out of the ice so that we could move forward. These were small but powerful reminders of how we show up for one another in times of need. And the snow is one example of that. Certainly, there are so many examples of that right now. So if you're taking this hour to care for yourself, to care for your heart, we welcome you. That's what our gathers are really about. We're grateful that you're here. We thank you for the work that you're doing, especially for kids. We thank you for showing up for your neighbors in the snow and showing up for your neighbors in the streets. We're in quiet moments of connection so we can take care of one another. I would say, coming from the classroom, maybe Marianne, maybe you feel this way too, but coming from the classroom, whenever snow comes around and snow like this, it kind of makes me stop and reflect. Those were the days that I would end up being at home on snow days. And I think about reflection an awful lot when the snow comes in. And, with the snow and then also Monday's celebrations with the American Library Association, I think the chance to reflect and the chance to watch those librarians gather, people had an opportunity to watch it, the sheer joy, and not only the joy in the stories that were shared, but in the committees that came together and read all of those books and the respect that they have for one another as librarians and as people who are caring for kids. It gave me this combination. It was like this snowstorm of hope. Like it gave me this something to really hold on to. I'm hopeful about the future of stories right now. I'm hopeful about those of us who want to change the world one word at a time. And this gather is certainly a celebration of that. It's a chance for us to talk about the power of story, a chance for us to talk about supporting one another. And we'll honor the work that has carried our organization into its 41st year, caring for storytellers. And we'll celebrate, as George said, one of our favorite things of all, hearing storytellers share their experience about spending time with us. A note for you as attendees, I saw this in the chat already, but this is a webinar style gather, so we can't see your video, we can't hear your audio, but we can see the things that you put in the chat. We can see the questions that you put in the Q&A. And certainly we want to see those aha moments or connections that you have with what our storytellers share as well. We are recording tonight's session, and you will be provided with a copy of that recording within about 24 hours. This may be our 41st year at the organization, but it is our first scholarship season with our brand new name, Boyd's Mills. If you haven't seen the news yet about the shift from the Highlights Foundation to Boyd's Mills, please take a look at the video from our executive director, George Brown. It's one of my favorites. Our team member, Molly Chow, will put a link to that video in the chat, and you can hear all about this exciting change. We really welcome it. We welcome a change. Change is good sometimes, but we hold firm to the things that haven't changed, and that would be our care and support for writers and illustrators, the shared belief that we have with Highlights for Children that children are the world's most important people. And of course, the overwhelming certainty children's books have the power to change the world. You can hold tight to those things, they're not changing. Boyd's Mills, our faculty, our staff, and hopefully all of you who join us share in a mission to positively impact children by amplifying the voices of storytellers who inform, educate, and inspire children to become their best self. Our job at Boyd's Mills is to take care of you so that you can take care of your stories and your readers. And I think if we did a word cloud right now, the words care and support have probably been said, I don't know, 40 times so far in our first 8 minutes together. Those are words that we love to repeat here. They're very important to us around these parts. And in that spirit, we would ask you to show up with care for one another. We ask you to join us with no hate, no harm, and no harassment of any kind. With me tonight from our team at Boyd's Mills are some core members. Molly Chow is with us, our program assistant. Rebecca Tharp is with us, our operations director. And of course, our executive director, George Brown, is with us. Don't worry, you'll get to hear from George tonight after we have a chance to hear from our panelists. For those of you I haven't had an opportunity to meet, I'm Allison Green Myers. I'm the program director here at Boyd's Mills, and this is my 15th year. January 2011 was my first time. This is my 15th year of scholarship involvement on the organization's behalf, though my relationship with Boyd's Mills began with a scholarship that I received 20 years ago to attend a workshop at the house on the grounds of Boyd's Mills. We've gathered 4 storytellers here who share in that same experience. They're storytellers who went through the application process, who had an opportunity to receive one of the scholarships, and then take that scholarship and use it towards an experience at Boyd's Mills. All 4 come to us with different backgrounds and experiences, different goals for their futures, and yet they too have that shared belief, like we do, that stories can change the world. I welcome Sabella Nash, Marianne Capiello, Sadia Heil, and I also welcome and congratulate Cameron Makwa, whose The Ribbon Skirt received an American Indian Youth Literature Award for middle grade on Monday at the ALA Awards. Basking in the glow of it, Cam, congratulations. More with you soon. I'm excited to talk with you about that and talk with you about your scholarship as well. Congratulations. We're privileged to come together as a community of creators and champions of children's literature tonight. In a time that's marked by challenges, our mission to center children in all we do has never been more vital. I would say the ability to invest in a diverse cohort of storytellers never been more vital. We must take care of one another. That is the human thing to do so that stories can continue to grow and continue to impact kids. Our scholarship program is the way that Boyd's Mills shows up with that support, and it doesn't come without support of others. There are hundreds of individual donors. I see people's names in the chat right now that are part of our donor community. There are dozens of sponsored scholarships. If you haven't visited the site that has our named scholarships, I hope that you will and see all the celebrations that we have. And there are a handful of fellow organizations, fellow nonprofits, or philanthropic organizations who share our values and they contribute financially to our scholarship program. You too can get involved. You can apply for a scholarship. You can help us spread the word about scholarships. You can offer financial support if you're in a position to do so, so that we can reach more writers and illustrators. And that's what we'll be talking about tonight. We'll have a little conversation with our panelists. We'll hear from our executive director, George Brown. We'll preview the scholarship timelines and links, and then we'll try our very best to answer questions that you have about the scholarship process. Before I get to our panelists, I do want to say one more thing about scholarships that comes up. I've actually answered a number of emails already that have come from people about this year's scholarship process. This hasn't changed in the entire time from when I applied for scholarships to when I started working at Boyd's Mills. This has never changed. Scholarships are awarded in three distinct criteria: seriousness of purpose, especially in your connection to children's books and your desire to write for children or illustrate for children, talent or purpose in your sample writing or illustration, and finally, financial needs. So those have always been the three guiding principles that are used in the review process when it comes to scholarship. We hope that this year we find dozens and dozens of storytellers who want to join Boyd's Mills online or at our retreat center. We'll invest in them so that they can invest in themselves and in their storytellers. Hope that gathered with us tonight, there are a few people who are watching and say, yes, that's just where I'd like to go and spend some time on my story. The four panelists that we've gathered tonight will be sharing their experiences, and I think we should get right into it. Thanks for letting me talk a little bit about what I love so much about scholarship season, the joy that it brings here at Boyd's Mills. But Marianne, I would love to start tonight with you.
All right.
So you were the recipient, Marianne, of the Kay Yoder Scholarship for History Writers. And I do want to talk a little bit about that scholarship, but I don't want to start there. I want to start with you for sure. I wonder if you could tell me about applying. Did you apply specifically for that scholarship? Were you excited when you saw that that was the scholarship name? And what did you use that scholarship for? What did you use it for your own creativity?
Sure. I definitely applied specifically to the Kay Yoder Scholarship because of its emphasis on historical writing. And when I read about Kay, I also appreciated that she had been a teacher, and I'm a teacher educator, but had taught young people previously. And so I felt a kindred spirit in Kay and in the way that the scholarship was designed. And it was also a discovery that was like a just-in-time discovery for me in terms of I had a writing deadline. Um, and for folks who are starting out, I have my first book for young people coming out in 2027. I started working on that book in 2013. And so it's been a long process, and I stuck with it. And I first tried to do it the wrong way as a picture book and wasn't really working. And now it's a YA narrative biography. And I was on a deadline, and I came to the scholarship night last year, and I heard about the Kay Yoder Scholarship for the first time. And so I applied, and I was able to come and do a personal retreat at Highlights. And it was because of the flexibility of scheduling a personal retreat, I was able to do it exactly when I desperately, desperately needed it, um, to make sure that I was on track for finishing a good first draft by the end of May of last year.
I love that. So one of the things that we do ask of people when they're doing their application, if there is a scholarship that you really connect to, we ask you to name that scholarship. Not that we're guaranteed that that's the scholarship you'll receive, but we like to know if you're looking at the list, named scholarship, is there one that means something to you? And I think that's always something, that's personal and connects to you. And you certainly saw that in Kay Yoder's scholarship. And then we do ask people to kind of choose what experience they might like to have. And so we have scholarships that are for personal retreats, for workshops, online or in person, and then our whole novel. And you selected this personal retreat. For some people, they might say, what in the world is a personal retreat? You're talking about being on deadline. You're talking about picking your time. What exactly do you do on a personal retreat?
Uh, Write frantically was what I did on my retreat. I knew I had an expectation because of where I was in my drafting and when my deadline was. I set myself a goal, and I knew that I couldn't spend my time feeling like I was under pressure because that's not a retreat and that's not a great way to write. But I set a realistic goal for myself for a certain portion of the manuscript that I wanted to draft while I was there. And when I arrived, I was a little frantic in my mind, I guess, because I arrived and I thought, well, the food is incredible. The meals are amazing, but I'm going to bring the meals back to my cabin so I don't stop the flow of writing. I can't waste a single second. And as soon as I got there, I realized what a ridiculous idea that was because no matter how hard I worked in writing and drafting in my cabin, I knew my soul told me I needed to come up for air and I needed to spend that first meal in communion with other people. And what a gift that was because then I never missed a meal for the entire time that I was on retreat. And so for me, when I'm at highlights, I want to use every minute for my writing. And at the same time, there's something that I feel like kind of happens to my whole body when I'm there. It's that combination of the companionship, the purposefulness of others who are there. And I think I said highlights instead of Boys Mill. Apologies. Um,
We know
and
what you
so
mean.
and so like my whole body relaxes when I'm there. And so even though I'm in my head and I have to like literally I feel like I have to pull myself out of my head to step outside my cabin and go down to the meals, the kinds of conversation that you have in community with other people who are also in a really generative mode is just it was just the right amount of time to pause my brain and be in a space that was lighter and offered clarity so that when I went back, I wasn't just fortified by the food, I was fortified by the companionship, the sense of all being in this together. My group that I was happened to be with while on retreat, at one point I said, well, I really have to do X with the manuscript by dinner. And so when I got to dinner and they asked, and I said I had achieved that, I got the claps and cheers from my table mates. And so there's just a real, I think, joyful community of others who are there in pursuit of their own creative work that empowers you. I think for me, it's been an empowering experience to just be with other people who care so much about what they're trying to do.
I love that. And I love the way that you describe. I think it's like choose your own adventure a little bit when you are
Hmm.
on personal retreat. You're not expected to, you know, show up at 9 a.m. for a lecture and you're coming to, if you need to rest, you're going to rest. If you need to wander, you're going to wander. If you need to write on
Hmm.
deadline, you're going to write. But there is that piece of community there. And I love that you brought that up about people are so invested in what you do. So, oh, we've just had a meal together and then everybody wants to check in with one another at the next meal that comes together. And I love that about the personal retreats. And you never know what people will be writing when you come. And you can really choose any time of the year to come on personal retreat. There's always there. I do want to say one more thing, Marianne, and I'll let you wrap up if you have anything else you want to add. But one of the things that you had you and I had talked about was you were actually awarded a scholarship before. And it was, if I remember correctly, kind of going into the pandemic. Yeah.
Yes.
And so that experience didn't turn out exactly as anyone had planned during that time. But I do think it's nice to be able to bring that up because oftentimes people will ask, can I apply for a scholarship if I've already received one? And the answer is definitely yes. One of the things that I've talked a lot about is care and support, and the other is investment. And we're investing in you, the storyteller. And so that might be again and again, we might be investing in you, the storyteller. So if you've received a scholarship before, it does not keep you from applying again. And we would encourage you to do so. Anything else you want to share?
Yeah, I just for those of you who have not yet had something published for young people, when I applied in January of 2020, I received a partial scholarship for James Cross Giblin Award for Nonfiction Writing, and it was for a specific workshop that was going to be held, sadly, like the last weekend in March of 2020. And so there was this period where we kept hoping, like maybe it'll be scheduled, maybe it'll be rescheduled, and then it didn't happen. Um, but what that did for me psychologically, just receiving that, I was at the very beginning of saying, okay, this picture book needs to be YA, and I knew it in my gut, and I was absolutely terrified with where to start, and had a lot of imposter syndrome. And so to get that scholarship, even though the workshop never happened, it really changed my own ability to look at my writing and to think, okay, other people believe I have something to say. I just need to
Mhm.
stick with it and trust my gut that if I get started, I'll find my path. And so, even though that workshop never happened, the scholarship was really transformative for me psychologically at that time. And that meant the world to me.
Well, I love that. Thank you, Marianne. Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you.
And we can't wait for your story. We can wait. We'll wait patiently. Hold it in our hands.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to move. I'm going to stay with on campus experiences, but we're going to move from the personal retreats into one of our programs that has always been at the core of Boyd's Mills, and that's our summer camp. Our summer camp builds off the vision of our founder, Brown. Kent was his home base was near the Chautauqua Institute, and so he would have July sessions at the Chautauqua Institute, and that would be the one time of year that the Highlights Foundation, then the Highlights Foundation, would take a writing week in July. And so there, Kent would make sure that there was a lot of one to one mentorship, that there were breakout sessions where you could go, like you're saying, I came with a picture book, but decided I need to write YA nonfiction. And you could end up going and taking breakout sessions that are unexpected. And then in the evenings, Kent would set up these experiences that would allow you to build community. And so it might be an off-site cookout, or it might be a trip to a museum, or it might be walking with Kent across the quad and getting ice cream. So it was this beautiful balance of mentorship, deep learning, and then these experiences that truly made you feel like you were part of a writing community. And that to us is what our summer camps are meant to do. We hold on to that vision from Kent Brown. We do it now in July. back on our campus. And we have two back-to-back summer camps. And you better believe, just like that initial vision, they are overflowing with excellent mentors. They have lectures, they have breakout tracks if you want to go and learn about illustration, but you're not an illustrator, you can go and do that. If you want to go and listen to the novel lecture as you're writing a picture book, you can do that. And then in the evenings, there's this bit of magic to help grow a creative community. And oftentimes, what we find, people who come to summer camp come back again and again because they want that community feel. And so I'm going to ask if Cameron Mukwa would come on with us, because Cameron was with us for the 2025 summer camp, and they received the Floyd Cooper Scholarship and stayed in the Floyd Cooper cabin.
I
Um,
did.
they brought stickers for all of us and sketched a drawing of the cottage, and they stood out with their talent and kindness. And I'm so glad Cameron is here to share about the experience. And I do have to say, there's a special place in my heart for anyone who receives the Floyd Cooper Scholarship. Floyd is one of the humans who built this organization. Floyd, when I think of mentorship, when I think of someone truly caring about the career of another storyteller, that was Floyd Cooper. And it's such a great honor to meet the people who are carrying on the Floyd Cooper Scholarship. So, Cameron, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience in finding Boyd's Mills, then the Highlights Foundation,
Mhm.
in applying, and what it was like at summer camp?
Okay, so I had a little bit of a different trajectory to it, just because, and I didn't really find this out until after receiving the scholarship, but my agent had previously worked with Floyd Cooper on the last book that he was working on before he passed away. So there was a little bit of a personal connection there, which made everything way more special for all of us. Initially, when my agent Nicole Geiger had first messaged me about it, I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm getting into that. So don't let imposter syndrome stop you, because if she had not pestered me about this, I definitely wouldn't have applied. I found out about it because of Nicole having a little bit of a connection to Highlights then, Boyd's Mills now. And I ended up going through the process. I really liked everything that was said about the summer camp, and I was in sort of a weird rut at that point where my book had come out. I'd gotten some star reviews, that kind of thing. And then no publishers really wanted anything to do with me. And so I was feeling really bad. And like now looking back on it, and it's kind of an ongoing thing now, it was just like a really, really bad time in publishing. And it is still obviously pretty tough, but it was really nice to apply to that, see how much care was being put in to make sure that all of the applicants and people receiving the scholarships are really well taken care of. And then when I was on campus, it was really nice then to be like, oh, I feel like people really believe in what I'm doing, which I know sounds like weird since I just, got this incredible award, but I did not feel that way at all like before I really got to campus. So it was really nice to have a huge amount of people that are all basically your personal cheerleaders. That's how it feels the entire time. And like there are people there that really want to see you succeed and see the kind of stories you're going to make, no matter what stage you are in for making a manuscript, starting on picture books, or if you have something that's basically finished. And it's really, really awesome to see so many kinds of talent in one room like that.
I love that. And I love the way that you described it as well. I do think there's something about the summer camp program too, where it's like, you know, night one, we're just getting to know one another, right? But it's by the middle of the second day, everyone's invested in everyone else's project, and we're checking in on one another. It's similar to what Marianne said. It's like everybody, not just the mentors who you're paired with who are giving you feedback. Everyone is like, and how did this go, and how did that go, and those kind of things. um, and so what would you say to someone who's trying to decide if summer camp might be a fit for them, if they're thinking about coming to the experience where you get some of that feedback? It's very different from what
Mhm.
Marianne just described, where you go and choose your own adventure. Summer camp is not that. There's
Right.
lectures, there's.
So I think it's a really great fit if you're someone who has kind of been sequestered doing your own thing and you really need to have some other people to talk to about what you're making. That was what was really vital for me. All of the instructors, but also the other people attending, have really great insights that you may not have about your own work. So it's great for building up some of your confidence, but also having a supportive group to help critique where you're at in your journey. And one of the things I actually really liked was that you have these set, like, lunch and dinner times, and breakfast if you manage to wake up and get to breakfast. Not all of us always made it there. But you would have people that you could sort of like float around from one group to another, and everyone sort of like mixed together. And so even if you weren't in a specific instructor's group of students, that we were all sort of like working together on like similar projects and critiquing work, you were still talking to people in these other groups and getting insight on, oh, what are you doing? And how is that instructor like helping your journey, that sort of thing. So that was really interesting. I think if you are someone who wants to have like that feedback and isn't maybe the most confident in what you do, it's really like the best experience for you. And I think a lot of time, whether you're a writer or an illustrator, it can be really easy to self-critique to a point that isn't helpful. And this is basically the antithesis of that. So you will get some really good feedback about the work you're doing, but I think that the community support is definitely the most important aspect of that.
That means a lot. I love that. Yes, community all the way, especially in those programs where you're kind of coming together as peers and you're also having the facilitation piece. And then just the inspiration of seeing people at all different points in their journey and all sharing a little bit of, what makes their journey unique in stories. But thank you, Cameron. I'm so excited for you. Congratulations again. And I think I'll get to see you again soon.
If you're going to be at ALA in Chicago, then probably.
Nice. I'll be cheering. I'll be very
Okay.
loud. It'll be fine. Yeah, it'll be great. But thank you. Thank you very much for sharing. I think I'm going to ask Molly because summer camp might be something that many people are interested in. So, Molly, if you happen to have the link
Yep.
for the summer
I
camp, that would be great. You can
Yeah.
place that in there. And that way people can see who the mentors are this year and kind of some of that flow that Cameron was talking about that goes between the lectures and, the peer-to-peer community time, and then also the time with your mentor themselves. So I'm going to take us on a journey, and we're going to go from the workshops that we just talked about, which were all centered around our retreat center. And so people have talked a lot about food and the space there. And we're going to move into an experience with online classes, because at Boyd's Mills, we have both this on campus retreat experience and we have online classes. And so Sadia is here with us. And Sadia, for those who don't know you, I'm going to just go ahead and wax on about you, maybe poetically since you're a poet, but Sadia is a poet and a journalist. We had the delight of getting to know one another first through our Muslim storyteller programming. Um, and now Sadia is serving as a mentor during our Muslim storyteller crash course. and helping new writers as they're kind of navigating ideas and deciding, how do you kind of keep going? It's a long journey in order to get your stories to be told. So tonight, though, I'm going to ask you to um, take off your mentor hat and put on your creative hat. You wear many hats, and have you talk to us a little bit about one, deciding to apply for a scholarship. You had other experiences with Boyd's Mills, and still, you decided that you wanted to apply, and then also in selecting an online course, and what course you chose, and what that was like. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Thank you for having me, Allison. It's good to see
Yeah.
you. Um, so I honestly, I wasn't sure whether or not I would apply. And I was, for all of you watching right now, I registered and I joined the session because one of my writing friends was a panelist last year. And I was like, well, I want to hear about, I want to see Allison and I want to hear about the scholarships, but I also want to cheer on, my friend Huda. And and then as, people were talking during the panel, I was like, maybe maybe I should apply. And then I literally, I think I waited until, I don't think it was the last day because that's not like, I don't think I did that, but I think it was like one of the last days. And then I submitted it and I decided, I really am grateful for the Muslim Storyteller program and everything that kind of led to this point. And, um, why not give it a shot? And so I applied. And then when I found out I got the scholarship, I was really excited. And I wasn't sure exactly, what course I was going to take. And so, but just the way like the timing worked out, because for those of you who haven't been to Boyd's Mills, it is like a little slice of heaven. I mean, I kid you not. Like I have like a whole routine for when I'm there. And when they say that, they show up for you and they care for you, like they are not kidding. So I love being there. However, like most of you that are listening, we wear so many hats and, we have to balance so much on our plates. And so, kind of this season in my life, I was like, I think online is probably going to be best. And then, the opportunity came where I saw a very specific course that was like perfectly aligned with, one of my, big, big, big long-term writing goals. And so it all kind of came together for me.
That's great. And so, what was that course that you
Oh,
decided
yeah.
to take?
So it's revising your novel in verse with Cordelia Jensen. And the timing was perfect because I had finished my first draft of my novel, and I had like really amazing feedback and plans. And like initially I was like, oh yeah, like this summer I'm gonna just go ahead and like knock it out and I'm gonna have a really awesome second draft before the fall. And then fall came and I was like, oh my goodness, like that didn't happen. And like everything is just, life is lifing. And so I was so looking forward to the course starting because I literally, I think I emailed Cordelia and I was like, thank you, because I'm all over the place. And so it really gave me kind of like the motivation and the structure that I needed to kind of just get back, get back. I think I literally told Cordelia to crawl back like out of the hole and start focusing on my revisions again. But the timing, it really worked out. And the flexibility was what I really needed at this time.
I appreciate you saying that. I think that when I think about our online programs, those longer online programs, some of them are 4 weeks, yours was 8 weeks, and there's like a gap in between where you're actually, getting an awful lot of work done. So you do have some homework. During the course, you have the live sessions, you have some, feedback during it. But the word accountability comes to mind when it's the online classes, because it's like I'm scheduling it in my day-to-day life. And there's one thing when we go to the retreat center, where the retreat center is going to kind of block out day-to-day life, and the food is going to be there, and someone's going to clean the plates, and someone's going to make sure that if it's snowing, it's shoveled from, door to door for you and things. But when you're at home, it's like, how do I still carve out the time to do a big revision like that, to put in the work and scheduling that time in? I think the accountability piece with online classes helps. I'm so glad that you shared that, because I think sometimes, if somebody gets a scholarship and they're like, well, I feel like I should go to the retreat center. Of course, we'd love to host you, but we would love to host you in whatever capacity you can show up fully for. And sometimes that is those, weekly sessions, and come on with us, and, let's make it happen. So I do
Absolutely.
also want to point out, Sadia, that you received an award that celebrates another person who I would say helped build our organization. We just talked about Floyd Cooper with Cameron, but the scholarship that you received was the Patricia Lee Gausch Scholarship. And what I love so much about this scholarship, besides just loving Patty Gausch just so much, I emailed with her today and I said that you and I would be on a panel together. And she said, I still haven't written a letter. And I remember that I need to do that. She's just so lovely. Her to-do list is, as long as it can be. And she's still giving feedback on full novels and things like that. But what I love is the way that Patty's scholarship came together. Of course, she's this prolific editor and author and teacher. And she has this core group of 9 writers who she gathers together, and they have decided to create the scholarship in her honor. And these 9 storytellers, they rotate on and off for scholarship reviewer committee. So 2 of them are on and off, but then they go back and they tell everyone else about the scholarship. So, like, yes, you did make it through all the rounds of review, and then you got broadcast to the Patty Gausch fan club who established the scholarship. And so they were all invested. And they show up on campus right after the close of scholarship season. And so we got to be on campus with them right after you found out that you had received the Patty Gausch scholarship, and they couldn't have been more excited. So I say that because I remember squealing when they selected you and then going there, and they were so excited. I can't stress enough the amount of people who are invested in the work that you do. And you are an example of it, but everyone who earns a scholarship from Boyd's Mills has this whole, you might never get to meet them, but they are there and they are cheering you on. Like Cameron said, you have your own cheering squad. It's like, that is a big part of the scholarship. So we can't wait to hear what comes next for you. We're so grateful that you are also mentoring in some of our programs. And thank you for sharing about
Thank
your
you.
online
And
course.
I did not know that was part of the process. And thank you for not telling me until now. But yeah, when I found out I got the scholarship, and then I of course looked it up, and I was like, wow, like editor, writer, teacher, like this is. And then it said, this particular scholarship, it talked about creating the heart, like a story with heart. And I was like, that's again, like when you're just looking for that extra motivation and validation, it really helps. But my favorite part was Patty embodies a spirit of giving back. And I feel like that's so important. And just to have, and I'm an acronym person, it's my background, I can't help it. But just talking to you all tonight, some of the things, the 3 things that keep coming up, and I call it now my 3 C's, I wrote it down, but care, not only, the care that you all give us, but the care that you put like for me, like making that time to do the course every week was care for myself, and that's important too. And the second C is community, which we all know is so important, especially right now. And then the last one, of course, is craft. But so yeah, I just wanted to thank you, and just the spirit of giving back, and then the 3 C's that I just made up as we were talking.
See, look at you. You'll put it in a poem soon, I think. Thank you, Sadia. I appreciate it much. So, this so far we've had kind of some examples here of um, our personal retreats, like Marianne's workshops, like summer camp, or like Sadia's taking the novel in verse online. There is another type of scholarship that you can apply for, and that is the whole novel workshop. We have both online and in-person experiences. And so Sabella is here next and is going to talk a little bit about the whole novel experience. I'm completely 100% biased because Sabella was in my small brain trust group when we were talking about stories, and I was the complete, as Cameron talked about it and Sadia just talked about it. I remember having an out of body cheering experience at the end of whole novel when you shared your changes at the open mic, and I hope that that wasn't, if you were my teenage child, that would have embarrassed you, but hopefully that didn't embarrass you when it happened during whole novel. I'm excited to hear about your reasoning for choosing whole novel. It's a very different experience than the ones that we've shared so far, and kind of applying for the scholarship and that whole piece too. Welcome. You're here.
Sure. Thank you. And it's so great to see you again. And thank you for having me tonight. When I applied for the scholarship originally, I was thinking about doing something online because I'm in California. So getting to Pennsylvania, I was like, oh, I'll do an online course. I was like, it was in October, and it was also the whole novel course, but just the online version of it. And then I got the scholarship. And I was like, oh, how much is it? And maybe I can make this work. And there was a payment plan. So I was like, I want to go because this will be amazing, to be able to go to Boyd's Mills for the week. And it's just like the campus is amazing and quiet and peaceful, and you're just so well taken care of. So, I mean, that was a large part of it, like that self-care, like going into an environment where you're with other writers and they feed you and there's like unlimited ice cream. And that was like, you had me at that. I was like, unlimited ice cream. I talked about that so much, but the whole novel class was amazing. And it's in the sense, and I know I'm overusing the word amazing, but it was because you get to have someone read your whole book. And usually you get chapter critiques or, a section here or there, but to have someone read your whole book and then give you comments. And my reader was Crystal Allen, and she gave me such in-depth comments and gave me a better way to look at my novel. And I could see instantly like, oh, and, re-envision it. And so being on campus that week, and after breakfast, we'd have like craft talks. And so just being around people who are talking like about craft and their work, you'd have all these epiphanies. So yes, it came in, my story was one way. And then by the time I left, I was like, it's a completely different story, but so much stronger and better for it. And, with the new opening, it's just like, I was sitting at the stream, and it's just like, you have the opportunity to kind of just be as an artist, and you need that because there's so many other distractions and things when you're in your own space. And so I really like what Sadia said about the care, the community, and the craft, because you get all of that. You're like enveloped, and it's like, how often will someone else feed you 3 meals a day that you don't have to prepare, clean up after yourself, and they're delicious. So I was like, by hook, by crook, I'm going. So wound up at the whole
Well,
night.
I do. I love that you brought that up. I mean, it's in the name, but sometimes people will still say like, and how much of your book, will they read in the whole novel? The whole thing is critique. But I do think that it is interesting. So we have the whole novel. You can apply when you apply for scholarships. You can apply for the whole novel, and we have a set number of scholarships that pay for the entire whole novel. And those are the ones that are within that application. And so you were awarded the Christine and Kenneth Taylor Butler Scholarship, and that was applying for a workshop to take. And it now hearing your decision making process, you were like, oh, I think I'll try something online, and maybe this. So your scholarship was not one of them that was with the whole novel, and you actually combined your finances and the scholarship in order to make that happen. And what I love about that is, again, it was choosing what you needed during that specific time. During that time, you were like, yes, I'm ready for this whole thing to be read. I'm ready for feedback on it all. And with this amount of assistance, I'm going to head out to the woods of Pennsylvania. Yeah. So I like that I just like that it shows kind of the flexibility, and knowing that, I think I said this earlier, but the investment really is in you and the path you want to take. And hopefully people who have questions about the whole novel will ask those questions of us, and we'll have another wonderful whole novel experience like we had with you. It was such a wonderful group, wonderful time together.
It was a great community, and to still be in touch with them even now, and to hear how everyone's doing and what they're working on, to realize that we all came in one way, almost like, oh yeah, I'm thinking when I go in, like, oh, I'll get this draft right out. And it's like, oh, there's so many different things I can do to make it better. And to hear everyone in the same boat, like we all found these little pieces, these nuggets that can help make our work stronger. So that's inspiring to hear, hearing the community going through the same thing that you're going through.
Yeah, and to stay together after, I think that makes it, this next part, like the revision part, less lonely too. You know that there's some people out there that are expecting this revision to be done and to see it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So I think one of the reasons during the scholarship gather, we don't sit down and go through the actual application together, but rather talk to people who experienced applying for a scholarship and experienced taking one of our programs, is because that ends up making the decision whether or not this is an application you want to invest time in. If you heard about an opportunity as a storyteller that you say, yes, I would like financial support in doing the whole novel, in going to summer camp, in attending a personal retreat, an online class, one of our workshops, that's the first kind of yes or no that you have to make. Is Boyd's Mills the place for me? And hopefully from hearing from our panelists, you've decided, yes, Boyd's Mills is the place for me. And so the next person that I'm going to invite to have a conversation with us is our executive director, who says, yes, every day, Boyd's Mills is the place for me. And he loves this season in particular, the scholarship season. What excites you this year, George, about our scholarships?
Allison, I'll tell you what excites me this year about this. So just kind of recapping, because we've heard it all from you and from our storytellers. I think, wow, 41 years of doing this work, of nurturing storytellers. That's a big deal. And of course, we're thrilled with our first year with our new name as Boyd's Mills, and going through that process of thinking about this and how much Boyd's Mills, the place, has come to embody the nurture and the care that our organization gives. And you heard it from all four of our storytellers this evening, but that idea of care, right? And I think one of the things we think about is we have this belief that we share with our friends at Highlights, that children are the world's most important people. And Allison, you've often said to me, if we believe that children are the world's most important people, and these storytellers are coming to us to write stories for children, they need the utmost possible care to be able to create the very best for children. And so I think, like you heard about the care that we create, like that's what we strive for as part of our culture of who we are. And then we also know how valuable that craft piece is, right? Like this idea of writing for children, there are methodologies, there are processes, there are systems. You have a story in you. That's where your passion comes from. And then layer on top of that the craft of actually like how to and how do you approach that. And that's where those pieces come together. And of course, what we've learned in these 41 years is it's that community that kind of ties all those pieces together, right? So craft, community, and care. Yes, Sadia, that is exactly what we think about on our ongoing basis of kind of what drives the Boyd's Mills and what drives us as an organization and being so passionate about this work that we do. And I think, Allison, you've also touched on this evening just whatever the state of the world is, the idea of creating stories for children gives us hope and optimism that we can have a brighter future and that children will have a brighter future. And so we hope when you're with us, when you're taking one of our courses, you have an opportunity to dive deep on whatever project it is you're working on and be able to kind of put aside a lot of what happens in your day-to-day life and the distractions from whatever it might be, but to be able to really get into that creative space and focus on doing the work. So remember, we had four storytellers with us today who talked to us about this idea of why they applied. They weren't sure they wanted to apply. And now here they are on the other side of the Zoom screen saying, I got a scholarship and it was great. So that should hopefully be enough inspiration for you all. Apply, apply, apply. One other thing, and I saw this also come up in the comments. Yes, it is heartwarming and it's unbelievable to think about our donors. So, right, so it all started with one person who said, I want to support a scholarship because I had such a good time. And now, when you look at the number of scholarships we'll award, I think we're going to award 40 or 50 or 60 scholarships this year. All of those, somebody gave money to our organization as stewards, thinking that we would be able to put that to good use for you, storytellers, on your career trajectory, thinking about your storytelling path. And so that part, it just always touches my heart to think that people are so generous, they're willing to put forth their own dollars to support people they may never meet just because they believe so much in this mission, in this idea of writing for children and illustrating for children, and they putting their belief in you. So looking forward to reading all of these applications that come in. Allison, thank you for allowing me a few moments to chat.
Oh yeah, George. I love that. I love somebody just put George is the epitome of boots on the ground. He does like to wear boots for sure, and he is the epitome of boots on the ground. That's wonderful to hear. It's a team effort. It's a team effort to bring the scholarships together. Um, and as George said, from caring donors and from past recipients who come back, or from past recipients who will say, please apply. There is, for people who say, I wasn't sure if I should apply, to people who say, I'm so glad that I applied and learned this or that. The application itself, somebody had asked, is it an application or is it more about your history, why you're a storyteller? It's a little bit of both. The application itself does have a lot of narratives. We're creatives, we can tell stories, and so we're asking you to tell stories about yourself. And it also does have some pieces that are uniquely connected to Boyd's Mills and what we hope to do with children's books.
In fact, Allison,
Yes.
we have many reviewers, many of our faculty friends are part of our scholarship review committee, and we've not polled them, but some of our reviewers like to read your writing sample or look at your art sample first and then read your narrative responses to the questions. And some go the opposite way and they'll read all of your narrative responses of why do you write for children? How long have you been creating stories? All those questions. And then they'll look at your samples. So, to your point, Allison, yes, it's both. It's narrative responses to the questions and it's the writing sample all rolled up into one as they think about those three criteria, which are seriousness of purpose, financial need, and quality. What's the word? What's the word we
Talent.
use? Talent. Display of
Yes.
talent. Thank you.
Display of talent. That's right. So let's take a quick look. I'm going to say that all of this is to make sure that we're the place for you, that you would like to join us on your journey at Boyd's Mills and apply for a scholarship. And you've probably been waiting with bated breath. How do you actually go about doing this? I will say if you go to boydsmills.org, you will find our scholarships all over the web page. I'm going to just show you very quickly. The page itself is our scholarships page, but this is boydsmills.org. This is our landing page for all we do. You can navigate to anything that we offer here at Boyd's Mills by this landing page. But our scholarships are such a big deal for us that we make sure that our scholarship information is on page after page after page on the website. And look here, our application window, it opened last week. Here we are at our gather session, learning more about scholarships at Boyd's Mills. You're already here. You can check that one off of your list. Our application window closes at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on February 9th. Don't worry too much if you end up having a conflict. As much as our internal team would love to stay up all night and look at any problems that come in, we've asked them not to do that this year. We're going to answer problems that might come in on February 10th, the morning of February 10th. So if you run across a complication, just send us a note. And then we announce scholarship winners in March of 2026. Typically, that's towards the end of the month where the recipients are announced. And you might be asking yourself, well, what happens in between February 9th and the end of March 2026? George was just talking about it. We have dozens and dozens of reviewers who review each and every scholarship, who make sure that as much care as you put into the application, that's received on the review end for that seriousness of purpose, talent, and of course, financial need. This page, if you want to click on here, you will go through the process and we're going to ask you to apply several times. We're giving you lots of information. I see lots of questions that are in the chat already that are asking about what are the different scholarships that you can apply for. That's located at this link. You can take a look. And also, you can look at frequently asked questions. Some people are asking about the formatting of their manuscript. That information can be found in here. Some people are asking about choosing between a picture book and a novel. That information can be found in here as well. So we'll encourage all of you to visit that website. I do want to take a look and invite people back and make sure if there are any major questions here that we haven't gotten to in sharing these experiences and sharing the link that goes directly to our scholarship application. I see a question here from, well, there's several questions here. I'll combine them into one. But the question is about the submission itself. Yes, it sounds like it's pretty important if the talent is based on the submission that you turn in. How polished does it need to be, and how do you select the project? With whole novel, the project that you submit for the application needs to be the novel that you plan to work on during the whole novel. Aside from whole novel, you are choosing a project, and you're going to have an opportunity to tell us a little bit about it. So you might be submitting a piece of work that isn't very polished. And the reason that you're submitting it is because you want feedback. The nice thing is that these are humans that are reviewing your application. And so those humans are going to know where you are in your creative journey and why you've selected the piece that you've selected. We have lots of conversations, and sometimes the conversations are, wow, this piece looks like it would really benefit from attending a workshop and meeting with a mentor. And so it's a great manuscript to submit in that capacity. So I would say take a look at the application itself, take a look at the workshops and offerings that we have, and submit something that matches your desire for what you would like to do when you attend something at Boyd's Mills. If that's a picture book program, or if that's a novel program, if it's nonfiction, illustration, you'd be able to put this in. Let's see here. How about one more question that is in here? There's a lot of questions. What are the different parts of the scholarship application? I'm going to say that the scholarship application, the nice thing is that you can preview the scholarship application before you start filling anything out. You can also save your work. You can do a couple of the questions each evening, and then, wait until closer. Like Sadia said, it probably wasn't the last night, but maybe just a couple nights before got it filled in. The application itself asks questions about yourself, your identity. It asks questions about your career and background, whatever that might mean to you. It asks questions about your connection to writing for children or writing in the sphere of children's literature, or illustrating within that. And then it asks you for a little bit of information about your financial need. It's nothing that you have to have documentation for, but we do ask you to honestly reflect what your level of financial need is in your application, and then your submission. The whole novel application is a little bit longer because of the type of program a whole novel is, but you can easily see a preview of the entire application before you even need to start it out. Someone else asked about, should I register for a class or should I wait for a scholarship? If it's a class that you would like to reserve your spot in, our suggestion is always to reserve your spot in the class. And believe us, we've had people before who have earned a scholarship, and we've been able to refund them the deposit that they've made for the class. They've held their spot in the class in order to make sure that it's still there. Yes, our classes on campus especially often do sell out. And so if you would like to reserve your spot, you would need to pay your deposit, but you would be refunded that if you end up getting a scholarship. If everybody wants to come back on the screen, and I'll just be able to say a quick thank you. There is a lot of information. I really understand. And I didn't even, there were other things that I wanted to talk about, and certainly time just got away from me. And, I wanted to talk about all sorts of fun things, but there's more gathers that we'll have in the future, and hopefully you'll apply for a scholarship, and then you'll come see us and we'll just have all sorts of conversations. If we didn't answer a question that is in the Q&A, we'll work together. Our friend Bobby Combs will hit me up with any of the questions. We'll fill those out. We'll make sure that they become a part of the blog, and we'll send those out with the recording. You will get a copy of this recording if you've attended, or you'll be receiving this recording because you didn't attend live, and you'll hear me say this part in a recording. I do want to make sure that I say a big thanks to our panelists for sharing their experience. I think what it ends up doing is it's you all who were on the recording last year and said, should I apply? And you heard the story from someone specifically that said yes. I too am going to apply like Cameron did, or Marianne did, or Sabella did, or Sadia did. So thank you for sharing that experience and being with us tonight. Thanks to our wonderful, wonderful team at Boyd's Mills. There are so many people behind the scenes who make scholarships happen, make it a possibility, from our marketing team to our operations team to our programming team. Everybody works together, and all the while, the people in the kitchen are thinking about what they could possibly cook for you when you're on campus. So there's that piece too. Please figure out how you can get involved with our scholarship, whether that means applying, helping us spread the word, or if you're in a position donating to help us raise more funds for storytellers. Until next time, we hope we see your application before February 9th. Hope you'll stay safe. Hope you'll take good care of yourself and one another. It's the human thing to do. And I wish you all a good evening. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Good night. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Allison. That was great. Thank you, panelists. So glad to be with you.